Welcome back to Jazz Mountain's Ghost Story, Act 2, Chapter 10, The Maze.
Brett was running for his life as the ghost army haunted him unmercifully. His legs pumped so hard that his balls flapped with such incredible ferocity that the sound of them hitting his sweaty thighs was like a jackhammer drilling into a ribeye. Its unseemly, vulgar sound made him feel sick to his stomach, which only deepened his despair. He had no clue where he was going, and when he tried to look around for an escape, or for something to jump into or hide behind, he saw only walls closing in on him, as if he were being constricted by a roided-out python. He was utterly desperate and forlorn, and prayed that there would be some way out of this seemingly endless hallway. The only thing he had going for him was that he was so fast that he had managed to maintain a slight lead on the ghosts, but they trailed him so closely that he could smell their garlic breath and could still hear the sound of Ben chomping about irrelevant crap, as if he were right next to him. Brett knew that if he slowed down for even an instant, he would surely meet his bitter end. He was completely distraught, looking for any hint of an exit in sheer panic. The ghosts meant business, and they seemed to be intent on haunting him to his grave, no matter how long or how fast he ran. They hadn't yet had their meal, and they were intent on a Brett steak dinner. But then, all of a sudden, Brett saw an edge in the wall of the corridor, and he took a sharp left at breakneck speed. There were a few more turns in a row, and he imagined he was a NASCAR driver to help him get the inside track. Even though Brett hated NASCAR, this seemed to help, because he was starting to draw just a bit further away from the ghosts. With every right and left he took, his hope grew, for when he looked up, he saw the spirit army flying ever higher up above him, getting just a bit further in the distance with each turn. Then, without warning, Brett smashed into a wall.
Fuck!
He yelled as he drew his hands up to cover his face. He had really smoked his dome bad. He turned around and realized the only way he could go was back where he came.
God damn it!
Brett yelled in frustration, and he ran as fast as he could, crying with his arms waving helplessly in the air. Seeing this, the ghosts let out a collective laugh, and they all pointed down at him, mocking him amongst themselves with malevolent delight. He also saw a fretful apparition of two random dudes he knew from the haunted house, Ted Nugent and the helping friendly bookie, and they were flicking him off and cackling with sadistic pleasure. Brett hated the sight of these things, and he had never been so lost in his life. It seemed like the harder he tried to find a way out, the more complex the labyrinth became. At first, he tried to retrace his steps, but this only seemed to further tighten the knot he was tying himself in, and he became even more disoriented. Brett began to really freak out, and felt so constricted and anxious that he could hardly breathe. He was utterly strangled by this dreadful snarl he was so hopelessly entangled in, and he began to wonder if he might never find his way out. He had a daunting realization that he was doomed to starve to death like this, running around like an idiot. And inside him, a voice endlessly repeated the phrase, "You've lost it. You'll never get out of this maze." In the Mountain Archive, we have a song which was written about the sheer panic that Brett felt that night.
joy, a good laugh. Embarrassed with failure, I try to reverse the course that my trade had already traversed. Subduing the trauma, engulfing my dream, invaded through what was an unguarded sea. The torrent of helplessness swept me away to the cabin of shame and the hall of dismay. Inside me a voice was repeating the phrase, you've lost it, you'll never get out of this maze. You'll never get out of space. 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 maze. You'll never get out of this 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 maze. Never get out of this maze. Never get out of this maze. You'll never get out of this maze. Never get out of this maze. You'll 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 never get out of this maze.
Chapter 11. The Oil.
The maze was so thick and tangled that it made the highest level of Pac-Man seem like child's play. He was caught in the snare of its wicked puzzle, and his head spun so fast that he felt nauseous, lost his balance, and fell to the floor. As soon as his slightly fat body hit the ground, he felt like he was being swallowed by some kind of pernicious quicksand. He immediately regretted every decision he had ever made, as he suddenly realized everything he had done in his life had led up to this point of utter terror. If this was what all his thoughts, words, and decisions had led to, it had totally not been worth it, because he couldn't imagine anything worse. Then, without warning, the quicksand beneath him vanished, and he felt like he was falling into a bottomless pit. It was exactly like he was on the Giant Drop, that shitty ride at Six Flags that he always hated. He dropped so deep and so fast into this cosmic pit that he felt like it could have only been a black hole, or hell itself. And he lost his stomach. Bad. Just when he thought he couldn't have fallen any further, he felt like his body cracked through an egg's membrane, which opened up to a strange new space, and in a couple seconds he abruptly plunged into a cauldron of hot liquid. At first, he thought that it must be hot lava, like in Super Mario Bros., but once he felt its slick, greasy texture and sniffed a distinct gas station smell, he realized that he had in fact splashed into a giant vat of oil. And this oil wasn't just boiling hot, but it also had a forceful undertow which sucked Brett down even further. Feeling like this must be it, Brett crossed his arms over his chest, imagined he was on the North Pole to try and cool himself down, because it was so fucking hot, and surrendered to the fact that he was about to finally meet his end. He was so exhausted from being up all night with the ghosts, and from partying for months on end, that he felt like he might as well get one last more moment of sleep before he died. That was, pitifully enough, all he could do at this point. Just when he was about to drift off to his final slumber, a giant ghost that looked exactly like the Grim Reaper appeared before him, brandishing a fiery scythe.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Brett yelled. The spirit then broke into a fang-filled smile and cackled at him in jest. Just when Brett had thought that he might die relatively peacefully, he realized this tragic haunting had only begun. He hadn't escaped or outrun the ghosts. They seemed determined to follow and spook him anywhere, no matter what. They seemed to be biding their time for when their feast would be absolutely perfect. They were in no particular rush, and were merely playing with their food, like a pod of demon orca whales hunting in a sea of blood. Brett continued to spiral down further, until he came to a gate made out of heaps of his own rotting skulls, a sight so frightening he could only cringe in horror. He saw this as a vile premonition of his total annihilation, and he wondered if he might be trapped in this nightmare for many lifetimes to come, dying one terrible death after another, without end. There were just so many skulls, and he helplessly wept as he thought about the loathsome fate that surely awaited him in this sinister place. And legend has it, this song was written about Brett splashing into the oil.
quench no furrow ground. No cold, I'll sleep more soundly now. No stranger sunset have I seen. The wavy lines I float between. Convergent spirals, it's around. It draw me further underground. Between the layers in the soil. I crash to shell and splash in oil. My relentlessness is finally quit. And I am warming up a bit. Below a kingdom bathed in ink. Now opening the onyx gates. I sense the reaper as I sink within oblivion awaits. I crash through shell and splash in oil. Oblivion waits. I crash through shell and splash in oil. Oblivion waits. I crash through shell and splash in oil. Oblivion waits. I crash through shell and splash in oil. Oblivion waits.
Chapter 12. The Weed.
Brett splashed around and boiled, and he could start to smell the foul stench of his own flesh cooking. It smelled like hot dogs. He'd probably rather die any other way than this, he thought. What would they think had become of him? What would they do without their favorite front man? What he would give to send them off with one last rocking show to say goodbye. Then, just as he was wondering what song he would pick for the encore of his last show, all of a sudden he felt a hand grab his arm and forcefully pull him up and out of the oil. At first, Brett assumed it must have been another wretched ghost, taking him somewhere else for an even greater torture. It had been that kind of night. Things just kept getting worse and worse, so nothing at this point would surprise him. But he was happy to be out of the boiling liquid, for now at least. Not really wanting to turn around to see what horrifying apparition had a hold of him, he finally got the courage to look over his shoulder and saw none other than Ozzy fucking Osbourne.
2,000 degrees and cloudy. What the fuck am I doing? I'm stuck on the Weather Channel. Ah! What the fuck is that?
Said Ozzy.
Holy shit, you're Ozzy Osbourne. What's up, man?
Said Brett, as his eyes lit up. He was stunned. Had he actually been saved from certain death from boiling by this true rock legend? It was a miracle. But just as Brett was about to open his mouth to thank Ozzy, he had a grave realization. This wasn't Ozzy Osbourne. It was just another ghost who had taken the shape of Ozzy, as all the other ghosts had done as they personified all his worst agony. Brett sighed and waited for the worst to come. At least it wasn't Scrambled Greg who had grabbed him, he thought.
Oh, come on, Sharon. I'm fucking Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of fucking Darkness. Evil, what's fucking evil? I've had a follow the fucking bubbles and... When do the male models come on and start stroking them? Oh, hey, man. You seem pretty stressed out. And you smell like hot dogs, man. You got an extra on you? Well, actually, shit, I can't eat anymore. I'm a fucking ghost now, man. It's been a real hoot. I can fucking fly now. It's totally rad. And I never have to sleep. I just get to drive around all night and spook demons. It's a real trip. I'll tell you what. One last thing. If you have any drugs or any alcohol, give me some.
As he kept ranting, Brett suddenly understood that he was wrong. This ghost was actually just a little bit different. It didn't smell like garlic breath, rum, or dick, and it wasn't totally annoying or trying to scare him. In fact, he was pretty cool and hilarious. Brett realized that this was actually the real ghost of Ozzy Osbourne, who had recently departed the world of the living.
Ozzy, are you real?
Brett asked, but then realized how stupid he sounded asking that. He was a little nervous because, well, he was a pretty big fan.
Who bloody cares, man? I'm having a total blast in here. You're too tense. You've got to calm your nerves. You seem a little anxious.
Yeah, man, it's been one hell of a night. And where are we going?
He asked this because they had flown high in the air above the pit of oil and into the night sky, and were getting so far up that the stars and moon seemed to draw near. Were they in outer space? Brett began to wonder.
We're just flying around, man. Relax. We got all fucking night. I'm trying to find my race car. I think it's somewhere up here. Shit, I can't remember where I parked. We should go meet up with Bon Scott and those hot Asian chicks. I heard the Roctopus is having a rager at his place. I think I've still got some of the wildwood weed we can bring. It'll be a total hit, man. This stuff is pure magic. It's the new Spectral Kush. Ah, look, there it is,
said Ozzy, pointing to his car. It was the same purple hot rod from the first tale, and it looked magnificent. Ozzy had just gotten it a good wax. Brett felt the deepest relief he had ever felt when he finally sat down in the car.
Damn, these seats are comfortable,
he thought. Ozzy got in too and turned the key, and it rumbled with the melody of divine deliverance to Brett's ears. Had he finally lost the ghosts? Had he actually made it out alive? It was kind of ironic that he was saved from the horrifying ghost army by another ghost. And he started to sing the lyrics to Ironic by Alanis Morissette in his head. They should add a lyric about this to the song, he felt.
Check it out, man.
Said Ozzy. And Brett turned to see Ozzy holding up the most gigantic, Halloweenish-looking joint he had ever seen, wrapped with what seemed to be a dusty old mummy's shroud. Ozzy lit it up and took a hit, and the smoke bellowed all throughout his faint white body, enveloping him in a cloud. Brett almost lost sight of him, he took such a big rip. But that kind of made sense to Brett, since Ozzy was a ghost after all.
This is some good ass shit, man. You want a toke?
And Brett had never been so pumped to smoke a joint in his entire life. He grabbed it and took way too big of a hit. And Ozzy said,
Here, check out this fantastic song that some bloke wrote about this grass we're smoking. I think he grows it or something. He's a rad cat. They say you get higher if you listen to it when you smoke it. It's a cool ass trick, man. I tried to do that with Sweet Leaf, but the weed we had back then is totally whack compared to this stuff.
And Ozzy dropped a vinyl in the built-in record player. Brett had never seen anything like that and thought,
Fuck, this is a cool car.
and when the needle dropped, this is what they heard.
Flower grew out on the farm, and we never knowed what it was called. Some say it's a flower, and some say it's a weed. Well, I never give it much thought. Then one day I was out there talking to my brother, and I reached down for a weed to chew on. Things got fuzzy, and things got blurry, and then everything was gone. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it beat the hell out of sniffing burlap. When I finally came to, there's my brother Bill. He says, now what's wrong with your eyes? I said, I don't know, I'm just chewing on this here weed. He says, well, let me give it a try. It took the rest of that day and most of the night to try and find my brother Bill. I caught up with him about 5 o'clock the next morning, and he was naked, singing on a windmill. Said he flew up there. Had to fly up and get him down because he was half crazy. Well, smoking them weeds became kind of a habit around that park. We never seen no harm. We thought it was kind of handy. You take a trip and never leave the park. One little hit off the wildwood flower, pretty soon you're back there behind the wild animals. Well, all good things got to come to an end, and that's the same with the wildwood weed. A man came out from Washington, and spiders turned as wide as a sheet. Well, he burned and he dug and he dug and he burned, and he killed all our cute little weeds. Then he got his truck, and he drove away. We just smiled, and we waved, sitting on them sacks of seeds.
Chapter 13, The Melt.
Well, that was kind of a stupid song.
Brett thought. And he'd be damned if Ozzy wasn't right about it making you higher. With every note of the song, Brett got more and more stoned. When the song ended, he could barely open his eyes, they were so glassy and red. And then Ozzy took such another giant toke that the cloud consumed the entire car. And Brett got a hit bigger than the one he took himself. He burst out coughing so bad that he thought that he was going to pass out. Oh fuck, Brett thought. Was this all just this ghost's ghastly trick? Was this really, in fact, another one of the ghosts from before, who was bringing up his trauma of getting caught smoking weed in the woods before that Bob Dylan concert by that weird lady with the laser pointer. Damn, shit is getting weird, he thought to himself, and his mind began to race faster and faster with thoughts that were so paranoid that he felt like he was in 7th grade again.
Dear Christ, not again.
Brett thought. Or wait, did he actually yell that out loud? He thought Ozzy must have thought he was weird. Why was Ozzy looking at him like that? Did he notice how big his nose was? Why are they so high up? Could this car actually fly? Did I leave my wallet down there in that black lava? Surely they were speeding, and the cops would pull them over. Did he leave the oven on in his hut? Fuck. Brett's mind raced like this for some time, and he was shivering with panic.
You all right, bloke? You don't look well. It looks like you got a pretty wicked sunburn. Bloody hell,
said Ozzy, looking over at Brett suspiciously.
I thought you were gonna melt in that oil down there. You're one lucky bloke that I was looking for my car when I found you down there looking like a wanker trying to imitate a hot dog.
And for some strange reason, at the moment Brett heard Ozzy say the word melt, it felt like a violent fissure erupted in his mind, and he went utterly mad. It was as if some devil had snapped its fingers, and just like that, he completely lost it in an instant. Brett's pupils dilated and looked like shitty, gyrating raisins all of a sudden, like he had just eaten a whole vial of acid. He went completely pale, and a really confused, dumb look came onto his face, like used to happen when he tried to solve a problem in algebra class.
Oh no,
Brett yelled with his hands on his cheeks. He all of a sudden felt hot again, and he saw that his body was starting to melt. But the melting of his body was nothing compared to the melting of his mind.
You all right, mate? You look like you've seen a ghost or something. Are you going mad? You didn't take any of that brown acid that's been going around, did you? That stuff will make you see demon vultures and skulls and shit. Fun for a show with some girls, but not so much for a ride in a flying car. It'll make you paranoid and feel like rubbish if you're zipping around like this.
I'll be right back. I think I have to take a dump,
Brett said with a quiver in his voice. You see, Brett was a polite guy, and he knew he couldn't possibly stay in the car. So he thought he'd give Ozzy some reasonable excuse. He was melting so much, and his liquid body was so hot that it had burned a hole in the bottom of the car, and he began to seep out. It felt like he was spiraling down a bottomless drain. And before he could say a formal goodbye to Ozzy, he heard this song come to his mind.
Up my gear and toss it in my carry-on. Run the wide load to the left and watch the bitcoin crack and glow. And even I undo my belt, split open in hell. I wake up on my stomach with my face between my hands and crawl along the floor towards the doorway. Jump into my feet, I try to pull myself together, but I feel it in my knees, and the room begins to spin, and I slip up my hand and raise a well, split open and melt. Melt, split open and melt. Melt, split open and sea dream and plunge below the waterline. Down, 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 between beams to the gloom, among the seaweed and the slime. Down, 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 down. Melt, split open and melt. 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 Melt, split open
Chapter 14. Saw it again.
Brett's mind melted like an egg in a frying pan. Just like those "This is your brain on drugs" ads from the 90s.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Brett didn't have any questions, and he felt like he had completely lost his mind. What Brett saw that night, no one will ever know but Brett and Brett alone, because it was so deeply personal and emotional. But what we do know from anecdotes in the Mountain record is that he was harder on himself than even the ghosts had been, and he saw his entire life played out before him in a cruel, tragic comedy, worthy of a Shakespeare play. He was at once a hero and a villain, a prince and a pauper, an angel and a devil, a genius and a fool. Brett was super-duper fucked up, and the images of what he saw were thoroughly psychedelic, pulsating in a nauseating vortex, while at the same time, somehow uniquely gorgeous. And despite the physical world around him melting, that night he awoke to the spectrum of positive and negative energy, that eternal law that made the universe go round. And he felt this deep down in his soul. It was as if he was a bead on the sliding scale of a cosmic abacus that measured the law of karma. He still felt the true, poignant vibe of every one of his thoughts and actions, and saw everything for exactly what it was. He knew every mistake he had ever made, which weighed him down like an anvil, but he also felt the pulsating bliss of the proliferation of all the good energy he had ever sent out into the world. And the feeling he felt was quite mystifying, because when he saw all of these things, he didn't know whether to cry, laugh, or recoil in horror. He understood things clearly, but was somehow still deeply confused by what he saw. Brett felt as if his body had melted onto and dripped in between every object throughout the whole of space. He was everywhere and nowhere all at once. For even though he felt his body expand to the outer reaches of the cosmos, his mind collapsed in on itself into a deep black hole. The spectrum of feeling from pleasure to pain, from hope to regret, from joy to sorrow, created a gravitational pull against itself that was too much for Brett's soul to bear. He was so confused and helpless that all he could do was ride the wave and let the slings and arrows of his outrageous fortune pierce his fragile soul. He was tripping his face off, and all he had done was smoke weed. Ozzy was right. It really was some good shit. And was he just imagining it? Or was that still fucking Ted Nugent and the helping friendly bookie flicking him off over there? Those two dudes had been haunting him as much as the ghosts. But it was like they weren't really there or something. Guess he was just high as fuck at that point. As the night dragged on, Brett lived out his entire life, from moment to moment, and experienced it from a new perspective. It was completely transparent, and for that reason utterly horrifying. There was no escape from the truth. It was right there before him to witness, free from any filter or veil. The curtain of his mind's own suppression, avoidance, and rationalization of itself had been lifted. He saw that, despite all his best efforts to dress himself up as a rock star, messiah, or good guy, he was merely a helpless, vulnerable, naked dude. He realized he was a total fraud, and that his life had been perfectly miserable, even though he thought he had been on top of the world. He saw himself for what he truly was that night, and it threw him for a loop. And this was the most horrifying thing he had ever seen, much more terrifying than the ghosts. For the ghosts had merely shown him aspects of his flawed self. But that night during the melt, he saw the whole thing. And suddenly the most appalling ghost of all appeared before him, filling the whole of space. And it was nothing other than his own self. He recognized this ghost at once, and although it was totally apparent and obvious that it was just Brett, raw and unfiltered, he could hardly bear to look. Brett, much to his dismay, was the most vile thing Brett had ever seen. Like all of us, he had at times glimpsed his worst self. But he saw it again right there, as clear as a mountain pool, reflecting perfectly whatever appeared in it. And it was pretty damn ugly. And here's a song on a dusty old vinyl about the terrifying sight that haunted Brett that night.
Well, I saw it again. A form in my window. It wants to come in. Well, I've seen it before. When I wake in the night. When I wake up in the night, I pull from my dreams. Well, I try not to look. I try not to look. But the curtains blow open. It's breathing I hear. But there is the shame. For there is the shame of the being I fear. And I'm fully awoken. I saw it again. I saw it again. I saw it again.
Chapter 15. The Unholy Meat Feast.
Brett had seen his own shadow, and it was darker and more depraved than he had ever imagined. He was utterly paralyzed, for he saw that lashing out against it was equally useless as running away from it. He could do nothing, for any reaction he had against it would only serve to amplify its horror and make matters worse. If he fought, he would only hurt himself more, and if he ran, he would only make it come sooner. For this ghost of himself he saw was completely thus. It was strangely perfect, and could be nothing other than it was. He couldn't escape it, no matter how hard he tried. It was simply the result of his own karma, and he was doomed to reap the fruit that he himself had sowed. Just then, though, something very unexpected happened. All at once, Brett's melted body, which was dispersed so much that he felt like he had lost his physical form entirely, began to reform. He couldn't understand exactly why this had suddenly happened, but deep down, he knew that it was all a part of some perfectly woeful tale, of which he was the tragic protagonist that night. When Brett glanced down at himself to see what he looked like, he saw nothing that resembled the slightly fat, sweaty, naked body he knew. Instead, he looked like a delicious ribeye steak, and he smelled like one too. Brett realized that he had finally become dinner, much to the Ghost Army's delight. He had dug his own grave and led himself right there to the plate. Was this his destiny, he wondered, for it seemed like there was nowhere else he could have ended up, except here. He realized that the ghosts had been chasing him all night, just long enough for him to finally realize that any struggle was futile. He could sense their hunger from the very beginning, and he now knew that he would be their long-awaited meal. This was it. The oven timer had finally gone off. It was, in the ether of the haunted house realm, dinner time. And right then, upon realizing the futility of escape, he saw the Ghost Army converge in a swirling, menacing storm above him. He heard the loathsome sound of knives being sharpened, and of saliva dripping around him like acid rain. Their lizard tongues eagerly slithered out of their mouths, and they licked their lips with sadistic delight. Brett, all of a sudden, knew there was only one thing to do. He would be their meal, and so he surrendered and offered his precious meat to the ghosts.
Prince, have it all. Now hear footsteps in the hall. Wait in silence for your call. Then take a shot and watch you fall. If I am a ghost, but again I fly. And I'm stuck here as years fly by. If I had a resting place, 'cause I'm ready, felt my body die. Just felt like my heart stopped. It just felt that you heard me laughing. Got salt from the silver of Harvard. Just felt like my heart stopped beating. You just felt that you heard me laughing. I felt salt from the silver of Harvard. And offered them some meat. I need a different life, I think. And I think I'll be missing link. Offer them some meat.
treasure moments as I drink away the memories, let them sing. Them some meat.
Chapter 16. The Howling.
The ghosts viciously slashed Brett with their steak knives, like they were in a violent medieval battle, and they dug giant pitchforks into his flesh, like devils skewering poor souls at the entrance of hell. They carved him up like savages, and voraciously gobbled him down, bite by bite, mashing their fangs, smacking their lips, and grumbling with a sound that reminded Brett of Homer Simpson eating a pork chop. Woe was Brett. It was utterly horrid. He felt like he was an antelope on the Discovery Channel, except lions had good manners compared to the ghosts. It was worse than he ever imagined it could be to be eaten. Then all of a sudden, without warning, something very profound happened to Brett. Understanding that everything in his life was his own doing, and that he had been willfully ignorant of this basic truth, he realized that there was no way out, and that there was nothing he could do but let them chaw him down. In a way, he realized he deserved it. Upon this great insight, out of nowhere, he let out a good-humored laugh. He had no premonition of it coming. It just happened on its own, rather peculiarly, in a kind of cosmic eruption, as the result of letting go. It was as if he had used the gravity of feeling and emotion that had been weighing him down against itself, in a moment of unexpected, ingenious judo. He now strangely felt as though the whole haunting that happened to him that night was kind of tragically amusing, and that his plight was actually kind of fucking hilarious. How had he been so stupid? How could he not have seen how imperfect and miserable he really was? He had been wearing a mask all along, and that night the mask had melted away, and there was nothing left to do but surrender and just laugh at himself. And the ghosts' table manners were so awful that it was actually pretty funny. They reminded him of himself when he stuffed his face with nachos while drunk at a late-night Mexican place. The ghosts ate and ate, and Brett saw his body vanish bit by bit, amid showers of blood raining down all around. The last bite was taken by that fucking scrambled Greg ghost, and Brett let out a sighing groan of disapproval. but it was so perfectly awful that he had to chuckle. It was strange, but it seemed that in surrendering himself to the ghosts, and in realizing the depth of his own folly, that Brett had actually somehow been reborn. His body was now gone, eaten by the hungry ghosts, and his mind was turned inside out by the depth of his insight. But yet somehow he felt more whole and complete than he had in some time. Like a new version of himself had arisen from the dead. Brett suddenly felt like Lazarus, and he really wished he could put on that sick Mo song. In letting go, though, Brett had, oddly enough, gained something. But at this point, he still couldn't quite put his finger on what exactly that thing was. And just then, right when the ghosts finished while Brett had these profound thoughts, something truly amazing happened. The spirits had had their fill, and they looked around at each other with playful smiles and wide, ecstatic eyes, and began to howl. But before he could ponder on it too long, he realized that the ghosts' howls were strangely energizing. And all of a sudden, Brett's spirit began to lighten, and he busted out laughing like a little girl. And there was so much howling all around that Brett couldn't account for where it all came from. It seemed like it was not only the ghosts that were doing this, but that other beings throughout the vast distance of the realm were too joining in. And there was something deeply mystical about it. For it was as if all of their howls were part of some greater, transcendent howl that they were trying to imitate. Their collective howling was joyous, and yet wrought with a deep longing, like they yearned to be one with the mysterious, cosmic sound. They seemed to know that their howls weren't quite the same, but they still tried as best they could to become one with it. And Brett strangely felt that he too wanted to commune with this ancient, timeless noise they were all seeking. The ghosts were so delighted, however, and howling with such raw emotion, that he saw this was a truly significant and triumphant moment for the ghosts. Instead of being vindictive for what they had done to him, Brett decided to instead share in their joy. It just seemed, at that point, like the right thing to do. He had been through hell that night, and he was happy to take whatever morsel of positivity came his way. For he had realized the truth of the law of the universe of positive and negative energy, and he eagerly rode the wave of the ghost's delight, no matter how vile it was. Brett began to howl too, raising his face toward the moon, which he could now see as the dark cloud of the ghosts began to disperse. He echoed their elation with a childlike enthusiasm, and he suddenly felt a trace of what Scotty must have felt when he let out his world-conquering howl that fateful night one Halloween ago. And this, legend has it, is a song written about this peculiar and raucous after-dinner party.
Chapter 17. A Wave of Hope.
Brett was still pretty fucking high, and everything he saw continued to be cartoonishly psychedelic. He wasn't sure what the state of his physical body was. Things were still pretty up in the air. He didn't have a clue where he was or what was really going on. But one thing he did know was that he felt a great wave of hope swell up from deep inside himself. And it must have been his mind manifesting this emotion, because he at once saw a huge tidal wave crashing down above him. But he wasn't scared of being crushed or of drowning. Instead, this cosmic surge was full of positive energy, and he decided to once again let go and surrender to the flow. When this giant surge hit him, it didn't squish him or cause him to panic. Instead, it felt like he was being bathed in a comfortable, warm, velvet sea, and he let out a delighted laugh as it helplessly swept him away. Now submerged deep underwater, somewhere in the haunted house ether, Brett saw a surreal vision of the moon reflected in every drop of water, in a swirling matrix of light and beauty. And he also heard a faint, beautiful voice singing a mystical song. And somehow, he knew that was coming from the water itself. Brett was tripping pretty hard, and he felt good. Although, in the back of his mind, he still felt like he wasn't quite out of the woods yet, and that the ghosts might yet have some haunting left in them. He still had some doubt as to how this deliverance had come about, or to whether he had really vanquished the ghost army, which represented his deepest flaws, traumas, and insecurities. But at that point, he didn't really care, because he felt such a strong sense of optimism that it drowned most every fear he had, for the time being anyway. There was at least a temporary break in the action, and at this point, he'd take it. And so Brett rode this wave of hope, and he felt his spirit lighten so much that it felt like he had grown wings and could fly, even though he was still deep underwater. And he felt just like Aquaman, dancing to this song we have in the Mountain record.
From out of the cave
out there. We are flying over the water. We are diving into the water. I grow my wings and fly. 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 I fly. I fly. I am flying. I
Chapter 18, The Blank Space.
The great wave continued to roll on, and Brett saw psychedelic vision after psychedelic vision, each too strange and profound to describe here. Nothing made much sense to him, but he just went along with it, because anything he encountered in the water was better than those fucking ghosts. He felt like he was swimming in a giant ocean, dark as night, and yet he still sensed that there was some light down there. He couldn't figure out exactly what it was or where it was coming from, but he knew it was real. And then, all of a sudden, he heard a familiar voice.
Hey man, you like surfing? I've been waiting for a wave like this ever since I died, man. It's totally tubular. Where's your board? Or are you just body surfing like a daft old chap? Come with me, bloke. I'm having a grand old time.
Ozzy Osbourne surfing on a lightning bolt-shaped board was a welcome sight, and Brett threw his arms in the air with joy. Seeing Ozzy was such a relief. Brett couldn't quite put his finger on it, but something still wasn't quite right, and Ozzy offered him a welcome solace. Brett was still tripping pretty hard, I guess. He had cracked through one layer of his mind, but realized that there was still perhaps a few more layers left in there. His shit went pretty deep. And although Brett was focused inward on himself, he couldn't help but being pulled outward as well, toward that distant, epic howl the ghosts were mimicking. Even though Ozzy's presence consoled him a bit, when he talked to him, Brett was hardly paying attention, but was instead howling to himself in his mind. There was just something so entrancing and magnetic about it. It was as if it was wanting to draw him toward it, and Brett felt torn between the gravity of a downward spiral toward his inner soul and being lifted upward toward that mystical sound. He felt totally confused, and yet strangely hopeful, in spite of all the crazy shit he had been through that night. It was as if Brett had, through some unknown grace, been given some kind of second chance. After being eaten by the ghosts, he strangely felt like he had been reborn, and somehow had started fresh with a blank space in his mind. He still felt like Brett, but there was something just a bit different, and he still couldn't quite figure it out. What he did sense, though, was that even though the cloud of the ghost army still hovered above him, he felt like he had the chance to liberate himself from it, even if the ghosts never actually left. He realized that if he just changed the way he thought, and the things that he did, that he could at least hope to once again be free. He knew, however, that this would be no easy task. Upon realizing this, Brett let out a loud howl of his own, which felt like a natural way of dealing with this inner turmoil he was feeling. And legend has it, this song was written about Brett's new state of mind.
Some cold green tea. Got clouds that seem to follow me. Got strange demands piled up on me. Got memories. Got memories. Got memories. Memories of being free. As though I'm still a man, gonna give you one last chance to see, gonna shrug demands off of me, gonna dream, gonna dream, gonna dream, gonna dream, dream of being free. Gonna steal time from the faulty plan.
Chapter 19. The Mound.
Brett's howl was thunderous, and it shook and rippled the water around him with its hopeful and longing tone. And just as the last trace of its majestic sound faded into the depths of the great ocean and into the astral ether, something truly magnificent happened. Right then and there, before Brett's very eyes, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Jerry Garcia, appeared. And Jerry didn't look like he would have expected, but instead, he looked just like one of the Jedi ghosts from Star Wars. And he was even wearing one of those Jedi robes. And he wasn't old man, fat ice cream Jerry, but peak 1972 Jerry with beautiful, jet black hair and less of a gut. And now you have to remember, Brett was a huge Grateful Dead fan, so for him this was pretty damn sweet. And Jerry looking like a Jedi actually made perfect sense to Brett. Well, because Jerry was a fucking Jedi. And at this point, Brett was getting pretty used to seeing ghosts, so that part didn't freak him out too much. He just hoped he was a real ghost like Ozzy, and not one of those weird, shitty ghosts that had been haunting him all night. Upon seeing Jerry materialize before him, Brett gasped with surprise and excitement. And as he searched for the right words to say, he couldn't come up with anything, but instead let out a loud howl. When he heard this, Jerry broke out into a big smile and said,
"That was a pretty groovy howl, man."
Brett tried to reply, but just howled again. He was tripping face and, well, pretty nervous.
"I was at that bathtub show. It was pretty rad. I like the cut of your jib."
Jerry said.
"But hey, man, you seem a little bit freaked out. Hope you didn't take that brown acid that's been going around. Ozzy, did you give him some, man?"
Jerry said as he looked over at Ozzy, who was paying him no attention and smoking another fat joint, riding a wave.
"Ghost Ozzy's a real trip, man,"
Jerry said and laughed. Brett was staring at Jerry, wide-eyed, still at a loss for words, until he somehow managed to say,
No. Ozzy's weed is insane, though.
Jerry chuckled and said,
"Marijuana. Exhibit A. Keeps the mind in check."
Brett totally disagreed, but he still gave his idol a nod of approval, because he wanted Jerry to think he was cool.
"What happened to you, anyway? How'd you end up down here?"
Jerry asked Brett.
Well, an evil ghost army has been chasing me all night, so that's been great.
Brett said.
"A ghost army? That's totally wild. I've been a ghost for 30 years. Are those guys cool? I haven't met that many chill ghosts besides Ozzy. Most of them just seem into gambling and haunting folks. I just want to jam, you know?"
said Jerry.
No, they're definitely not chill.
Said Brett.
"Well, I feel you there. Sometimes I wonder if this ghost thing is really for me. I can't even hold a guitar anymore with these ghost arms."
Jerry said, as he swiped his arm right through Brett to demonstrate what he meant. It felt like a strange, frigid breeze passing through him, and Brett shuddered. He suddenly felt cold and empty, and it was truly eerie. He had once realized being a ghost must have been desolate and disturbing, and not all that great. And in fact, Brett was chilled to the bone so hard that the temperature in the ether dropped and it started to snow, even though they were underwater. Brett wasn't sure if this was in his mind or if it was actually real, but he felt it. But before he could think about it too much, Jerry continued.
"I'd do anything to jam like you, man, and I'd love to play that Languedoc. It has a totally epic tone. I was friends with that wizard who made it before he got struck by lightning. I've been looking for his ghost ever since, but maybe he was too cool to end up like me and Ozzy."
Upon hearing this, Brett suddenly had an oh no moment as he realized that the magic guitar was still in his hut. He hoped the ghosts hadn't stolen it.
Stupid fucking ghosts,
Brett thought. Or rather must have said out loud, because Jerry raised his eyebrows and replied,
"You got that right. Hey, maybe you can help me out, man."
When Brett heard this, he suddenly snapped out of his funk, and being the nice guy and big fan of Jerry's that he was super psyched to help Jerry in any way he could.
What do you need, Jerry? I'll do anything.
Brett said with excitement.
That howl you let out was pretty epic, man. I've been working on my howl, but still can't quite get it right. Even though I'm a ghost, all those Pall Malls I smoked have still done a number on my voice. Couldn't escape that even after I kicked the bucket. Well, that's life and death, you know? Anyway, I've been trying to mimic that howl for a while and have been chasing it. Have you heard of the legend of the howl?
Brett just looked at Jerry blankly and shrugged like he had no idea what he was talking about.
Well, you got a minute?
Jerry asked, as he sat down cross-legged on top of the water and looked exactly like Buddha himself, glowing with that radiant blue shimmer of a Jedi ghost. Brett leaned forward and hung on Jerry's every word, totally enthralled.
I went down into the mountain archive after I saw you playing that guitar, and even though I can't say exactly what I read because, you know, even though I'm a ghost, I can still get cursed. But anyway, there was a legend about a cosmic howl, and that if you could find who was making that howl, you could shed your ghost body and return to the flesh to give it another rewind.
Brett had absolutely no fucking idea what Jerry was talking about. So he nodded slowly, with a dumb look on his face. Jerry continued.
Seems like if you could find the dude who made that howl, he would pay your debts, which would basically be like your bond money to get out of this shitty ghost prison. I'm telling you, being a ghost still has its hang-ups. I thought I was always pretty rad and cool, but somehow I did some shitty stuff that made me end up as a ghost. Guess it might have been the drugs?
Said Jerry with a sigh.
Seems like if you could find the dude who made that howl, he would pay your debts, which is the real Grateful Dead, man. Like when I was looking up our name in the dictionary mythology, that's what I read. It's about someone paying your debts so you cannot have to bear the gravity of your karma. Not sure if you've realized, but there's an eternal law of karma, and it's a bitch, man. When you're a ghost, it hits you pretty hard. I'd do anything to find that howl so I can get my body back and jam. And this time I promise not to only eat candy and ice cream. Life is precious, man. Cherish it.
And as he said this, Jerry grabbed Brett's cheek and shook it, just like Adam Sandler did to the fat kid in Billy Madison. And Brett realized that Jerry meant what he said in grave sincerity.
Your howl was pretty rad. Maybe the best I've ever heard, and I knew instantly that there was something special about you, man. Help me, naked dude Kenobi, you're my only hope,
Jerry said, practically weeping. At that point, Brett knew he would do anything Jerry asked, and he was totally down. Jerry went on.
Fuck, I hope I don't get cursed, but it's worth it. If you can help me out. The text I read down there in that freaky cave said that the howl comes from a mound.
A mound?
Brett replied.
Yeah, man. Even though I look like a young ghost and I died when I was 55, I'm like a 100-year-old man. Really wasn't looking great there in 95. The text in the mountain archive said if you're an old dude, to trust your instinct and to go to the mound to get another rewind. So I think I have a shot to actually get my body back so I can play guitar again and rock out.
When Brett heard this, he couldn't help but think about how he had never rewound movies before returning them to Blockbuster. Fuck, he said to himself in shame.
I've taken a lot of acid, and man, I swear it's true. If you can find that mound, I think the guy that's howling lives there. If you can talk to him for me and put in a good word, I think he can pay my debt and I can go back to a real human body. That's all I want. You gotta help me, man.
The simple fact that Jerry was on guitar for that 78 Red Rocks estimated profit would have been enough for Brett to agree to this. But there was also the fact that Jerry was a total legend and had played thousands more unbelievable shows. So, Brett had no hesitation in kneeling before Jerry, bringing his palms together in prayer and promising,
Yes, Jerry, I will do your bidding. The mound I shall find, and deliverance I shall transfer unto you. Thanks for all the jams.
Brett spoke, near tears, and he really meant what he said.
Okay, groovy, man. And hey, you want to smoke this joint with Ozzy and I real quick?
Jerry asked.
I think I'm good.
Brett said. He was still out of his mind. Ozzy and Jerry ripped the joint pretty hard, and they began surfing more waves and playing air guitar and singing into their fists. Well, because they were ghosts after all, and couldn't actually hold, lest play, real instruments anymore. Brett was done with the wildwood weed, but he felt like his journey had just begun. He stood up with a surge of resolve and walked straight toward the moon, in search of the mound. Following the moon seemed as good of a guess as any direction to go, and no one knows how far he traveled, but Brett left at once, without even saying goodbye. He began swimming in the vast ocean, following some deep-down intuition, like a dim lamp in a dark dungeon. But he swam with such ferocity that he got his legs involved, so it felt like he was running. He was faster this way, running like an antelope, and he was a man on a mission.
snowbank, there's a mound that an old man knows good. Luca raises his shoe over this mound, right over the world, and another rewind. And it's time for the last rewind. How far he traveled. Oh, I heard he walked miles from the little mound. Can he find some shelter? He doesn't know to behold what the cold frost can do. At the last hill he realized he had circled back around. Round a back circle, round a back, realized it's time for the last rewind. Time for the last rewind. Broken old man, world unkind. Dead us married and cold. Mexican time for the last rewind. Broken old man, world unkind. Dead us married and cold. Mexican
And so we have come to the end of Act 2. Stay tuned for Act 3.